What is up, everyone? Crunchy Frog here, and with Season 2 dropping in a mere 2 weeks, we are in full hype mode for more content coming to Modern Warfare 2. Now, Season 1 has been quite a long one, made even longer by the recent 2-week delay of Season 2 from February 1st to February 15th, and by now you've probably heard several complaints about how stale the content has become in Season 1. Now, while Warzone 2.0 and DMZ did drop and were added to the game, the Warzone community seems just as displeased with Season 1's BR offering as the 6v6 fans are with the standard multiplayer offering in this season. Love it or hate it, Season 1 has addressed a lot of issues that were actually present with the game at launch, and overall has kind of gotten Modern Warfare 2 up to a much better state than it was on October 28th, even if it doesn't feel like it treads much past square one. Today we'll take a look at the last 2.5 months and discuss what Season 1 and Season 1 Reloaded did well and what they did poorly in order to give a more accurate quote-unquote state of the game really before Season 2 launches here in about 2 weeks. Now, as always, if you do enjoy this content, make sure to leave a thumbs up as it greatly helps the channel grow, and remember to subscribe in order to stay up to date with all of the latest Modern Warfare 2 news, as well as some gaming discussions, let's plays, and stream highlights posted every single week. So, without further delay, let's get right into it. So first I want to talk about the things that I enjoyed from this season, things that they did that I think worked out really well or really improved my enjoyment of the game. So obviously Warzone 2.0 was added. Now we've talked about this in previous videos, but adding a massive mode back to the game in the form of Warzone 2.0, I'm never going to complain about, more and more content being added, especially modes that weren't present in, the previous games, that it just makes the modern Call of Duties feel like they have a lot more to offer to much more people. Now, obviously, there's a lot of flaws, and we'll talk about some of them later, but I really enjoyed the map and the overall look of it. I didn't play it a whole lot, to be fair, because I'm kind of just Warzoned out by this point, but the few times I did play it, I really enjoyed the map itself, a lot of the points of interest, including callback maps and stuff like that that are littered around, and just overall the graphics and lighting and everything that kind of were improved over Warzone 1. So while it wasn't all great, I did enjoy that obviously the mode was added this season and that it did some things really well, even if, again, as a whole, it wasn't great. They also added DMZ, which is another massive improvement to the game and a massive chunk of content for everyone. And I personally had a lot of fun with the mode. Now, I didn't play a whole lot of it, but I did play a decent amount, and it provided a lot of fun for me and my friends to dive into. And I think while it was a little underbaked, it could definitely be a great mode going forward once it moves out of its quote-unquote beta phase. And I really enjoyed them adding Building 21 halfway through to kind of give you more places to play the DMZ mode. And Building 21 specifically was actually really fun. So that's one of my bright spots of this season. My friends and I had a great time getting the key card to get in there and actually playing on the weekends that it's available. And I know that they will be adding more areas like this going forward, so I'm super hyped to see that in future seasons. And overall, I think DMZ is a really fun mode. Next up, they actually added some gun grinding maps to help us with the camo and level grind. Now, I will talk about some of the negatives with this later, but first off, I enjoyed the fact that I was finally able to get some of those really crappy guns to max level and even gold, especially during some of the double XP weekends throughout the season. And whenever you're just playing overall, in a quick play playlist, those two maps, Shoot House and Shipment, help to fill things out. Right now, the game kind of feels complete. All bases are covered. We have larger, more tactical maps, some classic fun Call of Duty maps, and then we have the small, frenetic, crazy gameplay maps as well added in, and it just makes the whole content offering, again, like I said in the intro, it just feels like how it should have on day one. Right now, all of the bases are covered going forward. And to kind of add on to that, Shipment and Shoot House both look great. Now, they're reimaginings from the last time we saw them in the series, but I really love the fact that Shipment went back to basics with its layout. I think the graphics and the visual redesigns and kind of directions that they took with both of these maps were awesome. I just got to say that. And the addition of Winter Shipment, which obviously is still just Shipment, but it kind of felt like a third map that they added. Obviously, it's taken away now. We can't play it. But when we did have it, I really enjoyed it. And I thought the theme and the graphics for that were super cool. And I really enjoyed playing on that. I also love that now They are keeping a constant 24/7 playlist for these quicker maps, even if I wish it was always shoot or shipment 24/7 and not shoot house. Either way, I'm glad that they at least have some, gun leveling playlist, even if, again, there are some cons associated with that we'll get to later, but at least they have the option there now. I like getting in that to warm up for a few games before I hop into normal matches, or sometimes I just feel like camo grinding, I'll hop there and try to finish up some guns. Next up, there was a lot of UI fixes, and everyone knows at the launch of the game, the UI was just atrocious. Now, luckily, some parts are a lot better, and I know they have a lot of fixes and more redesigns and, stuff like that for future seasons as well. But at least in season one, they helped short up a bunch of different things. I don't remember all the changes they made, but one of the biggest that stands out to me is the camo menu. I know they're further tweaking that going forward, which hopefully is even better. But as of right now, it is miles ahead of where it was on launch day. Now, again, not all changes were great, and we'll get to some of them later, but by and large, the UI is better than launch, even if it's still kind of crappy, if I'm to be honest. Next up, they did finally add the combat record, which I hate adding this because it should have just been there on launch. But credit where credit is due, they did add it at least, and now it's in the game. Again, back to that theme of just the game feels kind of whole now. It doesn't necessarily feel improved in any way. It just feels like what we should have had on day one. But at the very least, it is there now. So that's awesome. And the stats page actually isn't too bad, if I'm to be honest. The next up. And this was kind of a fear I had going forward and a complaint that I've had in several games, but I was happy that a majority of the skins that they added to the store and everything like that have still remained somewhat grounded. I know there was like a couple anime skins and, whatever, and a couple tracer packs, but nothing was too egregious. They even did Krampus instead of just adding a full-on mythical creature like they did in Vanguard. He was just kind of a normal-looking military dude, kind of dressed up as Santa Claus, sort of, kind of. So either way, I really enjoyed that they kept it grounded. I know this is kind of COD's whole plan. They'll keep it grounded for Season 1, maybe some of Season 2, maybe even into Season 3, but the rest of the seasons we're going to have, Godzilla and King Kong and God knows what else this year. But for right now, they're keeping it simple, and I, for one, enjoy it, even if some of the community does not. Next up, they obviously added calling card challenges. Again, just should have been there on launch, but hey, I gotta give credit. It was added. It is cool. I do enjoy some of the calling cards that you get for those challenges. Gives you more to work towards in the game, even if the UI is utter trash. They've also redone the prestige and leveling system, and I do kind of enjoy it. Now, it's not perfect and it's not without its flaws, but I do enjoy that your rank just doesn't reset with each season. I love that everyone doesn't just get wiped back to the same, blank slate, essentially. I do enjoy that my progress is now saved, and, somebody that only played up to level 85 is still kind of behind me, who was able to get to 250, or somebody that got to 160, something like that. I do wish that the level cap was higher, and I'll kind of talk about that maybe a little bit later, since I reached the cap kind of easily, and I didn't even play like that crazy amount, right? I'm not, I know I do content creation and stream and stuff like that, but I have a full-time job, so I'm not doing this 8 to 10 hours a day. I'm, only a couple hours a day, some days a week, and I still manage to hit the cap pretty easily. I think I've been there for a few weeks now at this point. They did also add new weapons. I love the Chimera. The other weapons are pretty cool. Overall, they've added 4 weapons, which 4 weapons in one season, in my opinion, is pretty good. Love it or hate it, I love that pool is growing, and that's making the camo grind a lot easier because I won't have to do horrible launchers or knives or riot shields or anything like that. So I love the fact that those were added, and I think every one that they added is super cool looking design-wise and feels good to use. And I love that each gun actually came with more camos. So they kept with the whole theme of every gun getting 4 of its own unique camos. And I just love that they kept that going. And some of the camos they did add for these DLC weapons are actually pretty cool. Next up, I do got to say the Battle Pass, the new shakeup of the format and everything was actually pretty good. I progressed a little too quickly, mostly because, again, I did buy the Vault Edition, so I had half of it unlocked on day 1. But then once I got towards the end, there was like nothing more to do. And again, we'll talk about that more later in the cons section, but good items overall for the most part, nothing too crazy or wacky or all over the place. And Part of me hates that because, I want to work towards something really cool, but also part of me is happy that it kept more mil sim-ish for the most part, and, I wasn't out there unlocking the Terminator at tier 80 or anything. And again, I did love the new layouts and kind of being able to capture territories. It wasn't a crazy, departure from the norm, but it was at least fun enough, and I like that. I like it better than the linear progression of past games. Next up, obviously, there's been a lot of stability improvements, bug fixes. They've had 3 months worth of patches and hot fixes, and the seasonal updates and everything have made this game a lot more stable. Now, I know some people are still experiencing a swath of issues. I'm not going to say that the game runs perfect now, but for me, it is a night and day difference from from day one. So I'm extremely happy for that. We kind of expect that with every game, right? We expect every game gets patches and performance improvements throughout the course of its lifespan. But at least in season 1, they shored up a lot of the big holes in the boat, so to speak. And hopefully with season 2 and onward, they continue refining it until nobody crashes anymore. Although being Infinity Ward, they'll probably break something every time they fix something. So it'll be an ongoing cycle. So that about wraps it up for all the super positive things I have to say about the season. Again, overall, I do enjoy this season, so there's going to be more pros than cons, but we do have to talk about what maybe it didn't do so well. And the first step with that is just map selection. Now, I am happy that they brought Shoot House and Shipment, but I'm mad that they only brought Shoot House and Shipment. There's only 2 maps added, not 3 or 4 like we've seen with some seasons. There was no new original exciting maps to enjoy, no new maps that became a favorite, and really no even remastered maps that felt like normal 6v6, right? We didn't even get any more love for 6v6 or, the Ground War playlist or anything like that. We just got 2 retreaded maps that we've seen before, sometimes several times. And the other thing to notice with that is they are both gun leveling maps, which we'll talk about later. But again, they feel like they were only added to cater to the Warzone crowd so they can level up their weapons without having to touch, God forbid, they touch the multiplayer before they hop back into Al Mazrah. So again, very underwhelmed with the map selection. I enjoyed that they gave them that. I just wish we had more. Tier 1 was also a letdown. Now, I typically don't play hardcore, but it just seems like it was a worse version of hardcore that, again, was supposed to be there on launch, but then got delayed, and now they confirmed that normal hardcore is coming, so it just feels like a really ill-fated attempt at a at a half-assed hardcore mode, and I didn't particularly like it the few times that I've tried it, and I know the hardcore people that play these game modes every single year were not that enthused, so hopefully that gets better in Season 2, but overall just a weak kind of offering. I am glad they added it, is at least something, don't get me wrong, but just didn't do it for me. And once again, and this is kind of a big issue, is it just feels like it's nothing but Warzone again. The 6v6 feels like it's just kind of slipping to the wayside more and more, and Season 1 was a huge part of that. Now, I get that Season 1 was meant as the launching pad for DMZ and Warzone, but it just took over, right? Yeah, sure, they gave us 2 maps, but again, like we talked about, there were 2 retread maps, nothing crazy, and Warzone just constantly was in the marketing, was in all the updates. You could tell that a large majority of the development power is going there. And what's even sadder is supposedly 2 different teams are working on that. So there's an entire team dedicated to Warzone and an entire, big portion of people focused on multiplayer. But it doesn't feel like that. And if you read it through any of the patch notes or any of the, press releases or anything, you would think that multiplayer is the, black sheep of the family and Warzone is the favorite child. And I have an entire video talking about that, so I won't drone on anymore. But it just really hammered that home here in Season 1. Warzone 2.0 has also been met with a lot of criticism and overall was just very underwhelming. I didn't play it too much. Again, I'm kind of Warzoned out, so, I don't have a whole lot to go off of here, but I know those that are playing it really kind of disliked it and did not enjoy it, and the community complains about it constantly, so much so that Season 2 seems to be a complete rework of it, just bringing everything back to Warzone 1.0. So, yeah, it was great that it was added. I like some of the things they tried, but overall, super underwhelming. They tried to reinvent the wheel way too many times, and as such, overall, it just not a great addition, not a bright spot of Season 1, which is sad because Season 1 was based all around Warzone being released. Next up, obviously, the elephant in the room. There was a rather long dry spell between communications, such that the community kind of called them out and said the game's dead, and we saw player counts dropping according to some charts, and there was a whole stink over it. Obviously, if you guys have seen my past video, you've seen some of my criticisms of those kind of arguments, but either way, there was a kind of a long dry spell between communications, and obviously just with this being a longer season, as I mentioned in the intro, it just seemed like the game is getting a little bit stale. And I know in past years that would be all right and it would be par for the course, but nowadays with the live service model, it was just a little too stale, right? We need a little more given to us, especially since we weren't given a whole lot in terms of maps or anything like that day one. So, to have this for such a long period of time before season 2 was kind of rough. And as I mentioned before, the UI is kind of worse in some areas. So they fixed a lot, but then they added other things and it was just as bad. I can't list all of them, but I know like some of the big ones is the calling card menu was added, and that's awesome, but the UI is just horrible. They need to do a similar tune-up like they did with the gun camos and everything. I think that would help with that. And obviously then they completely ruined lobby muting, which don't even get me started. I'm not sure why they did that, but they ruined that AI and added extra button presses and confusion and stuff like that. So I don't know what they're doing, but the UI took 2 steps forward and in some cases 3 steps backward. And I mentioned this earlier, but the low level cap kind of sucked. Now, obviously, you look at 250 and you think, wow, that's a lot. That's 5 prestiges. It's really not. It did not feel like I prestiged 5 times by any means. So I think they could have added more levels, and I don't know how many levels they're going to add with Season 2, but I hit that level cap pretty easily. And while I did play a lot, maybe more than the casual or everyday gamer, millions of people have played the game a lot more than I did and hit 250 way before I did. So I can only imagine how much they did not like it. I don't think I played it an excessive amount that I should have hit max level as early as I did. And I kind of wish that I would have coasted into the end of the season, maybe in the low 200s, knowing that there was still some ground for me to cover and stuff like that. So hopefully that's fixed in future seasons. And lastly, there's just nothing to do in the Battle Pass after that max level. Now, we've talked about this before, different ways to improve the new Battle Pass system that they've added, but I really wish that they would have maybe given us a free store item every 10 Battle Pass tokens we got, whatever. Basically, once you got to 100, which for Vault owners like myself was extremely quickly, there's just nothing to do. Like, you played all this game, but you didn't have anything to show for it. You couldn't, get extra Battle Pass tokens or COD points or free shop items, nothing. Like, the Battle Pass was completely useless, and that took away a big chunk of progression after you've hit the max level, which kind of sucks, and I hope they do something about that in future seasons. So, overall, again, I really did enjoy Season 1's content offering. I feel like between some of the quality of life improvements and some of the features that they added, it's kind of brought Modern Warfare 2 up to basically where it should have been at launch. This feels like the starting board, right? Square one. Back in the day, what a Call of Duty game would have released as, which means it feels much more full-bodied and well-rounded. And, again, it kind of checks almost all of the boxes. And it feels like, at this point of the game, with the current state of the game, everything just feels like a day one release. Like, we're 3 months into the game now, and it just feels like, okay, yes, this is what the game should have looked like on October 28th. And a lot of the items and features and stuff like that were missing on launch have now been added, which, makes the game so much better. But it just kind of shines a light on how woefully unfinished it was on release. And it feels like the devs kind of just used Season 1 as a quote-unquote day one patch of sorts to bring it up to what it should have been. And it feels like now going forward, hopefully the future seasons actually add to the game and expand it out. But as of right now, everything just feels like it was stitching up wounds that it had on launch day. So hopefully Season 2, again, brings back all new content and starts bringing players back and gets in right with the community. Because with the COD community on the brink of rioting in the streets, this game deserves much more content and dev attention than it has received so far. So make no mistake, I am enjoying my time with the game thus far, and Season 1 definitely improved that tenfold. I'm just hoping to see a lot more with future, seasonal releases. Obviously, next week I will be posting a video discussing what all will be coming with season 2, so I'm super excited about that. But yeah, overall, pretty good season, and hopefully it's only upwards from here. So once again, guys, if you've lasted this long, make sure to leave a like and drop a comment below of what you're most looking forward to with season 2 and beyond for this game, and let me know what you thought of season 1 and kind of the maps and content and stuff like that were added this season. So other than that, guys, until the next one, see ya.